Listen carefully. Slow your breath. Let the noise fall away. Let the world outside your window fade for a moment. Because what you're about to hear is not advice. It is not motivation. It is not another video on discipline. This is a mirror for your soul. A mirror most people are terrified to look into. Thunder comes in two forms. The one outside your window and the one inside your mind. And those who learn to master the thunder within shape their fate, shape their future, and shape the very atmosphere of every room they walk into. There are two truths that strike harder than lightning. Two truths that will sit in your chest long after this moment ends. Every problem you keep avoiding is shaping the person you are becoming. And discipline is the only language life respects. Let that settle. Let that breathe. Because today, you are stepping into a truth most people will never hear in their entire lifetime. Let me take you somewhere real. Somewhere that feels like your own memory, even if you've never lived it. A man stands alone in his kitchen at 2 a.m. The house is dark. The world is quiet. But inside him, storms are raging. His hands rest on the counter. His breathing is uneven. Bills scattered on the table. The glow of a past due notice blinking on his phone. The kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful, but heavy. Like something has closed in on him. He looks at his reflection in the microwave door. A distorted version of himself staring back. Eyes tired, jaw tight. And he whispers, barely audible, "How did I get here?" Not because he was weak, not because he was lazy, but because life does not send you a warning before it tries to break you. Life doesn't tap you on the shoulder and tell you the next season will test everything inside you. It just arrives, unannounced, unapologetic, unfiltered, and suddenly your mind bends, your world shakes, your strength feels foreign. Tension rises like pressure inside a sealed room. Stress pulls at every corner of your spirit. And discipline becomes the only thin thread, holding everything together. Stay here with me, right here in this moment, because what comes next is the point where everything changes. The turning point, the awakening, the decision that separates the person you are from the person you are capable of becoming. This is the moment where a man rises, where a woman stands, where a soul refuses to break, right when life thinks it has them pinned, right when the world expects them to fold, right when the weight should have crushed them. That's when something ancient and powerful and holy awakens inside. Before we go any further, you need to feel these words deep in your chest. Let them land with the full weight of your spirit. You are so precious for being here right now. The fact that you clicked and chose to watch this shows your hunger for truth. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear is not just knowledge, but life for your soul. Please subscribe, like, and share this message, so that others, just as precious as you, may also find this light. Now breathe. Feel that breath return strength to your ribs. Feel your mind sharpen. Feel your soul sit up straight, because the next part is the beginning of your rebuilding, the beginning of your rise, the beginning of your return to the person you were always meant to be. America, are you ready? Ready to stop folding, ready to stop shrinking, ready to stop living in the shadows of your own potential? Because this is where your mind gets rebuilt. This is where your discipline takes shape. This is where the invisible version of you, the one you've buried under fear, under doubt, under hesitation, returns to life. Let me take you to another moment, another real place, another truth. An elderly woman sits in her living room, clock ticking, the soft hum of nighttime settling over her. She's lived through wars, lived through heartbreak, lived through years that tried to silence her courage. And she says something so quiet, yet so powerful, that it could make the leader of a nation cry. She said, "Strength is not loud. Strength is not prideful. Strength is the decision you make in the dark when nobody is watching." She wasn't talking about heroism. She was talking about discipline, the discipline to get up again, to try again, to keep going, even when your spirit is bruised. Her words sit inside you like something familiar, something you knew but forgot. That is what discipline is: a remembering, a returning, a homecoming back to your own power. You are not fragile. You are not broken. You are not done. You are a soul with fire in your chest. You are a mind capable of mountains. You are a heart sculpted to endure storms. And discipline is the key that unlocks all of it. This moment right now is your moment in the kitchen at 2 a.m. Your moment with the ticking clock, your moment of truth. And how you choose to move forward will become the story your future self thanks you for. Let the past be done. Let the fear fall away. Let the excuses melt like snow under sunlight. This is your rising. This is your rebuilding. This is your thunder turning into strength. Stay with me, because the next act is where everything shifts. And when you're ready, you will walk into the rest of your life with a mind that cannot be shaken, with a spirit that refuses to bend, with a discipline that fixes 94% of everything that once felt impossible. Are you ready? Let's go deeper. Every battle begins inside the mind, not outside, not around you, not in the world you can touch. The real war happens behind your forehead, in the quiet corners of your thinking, in the moments nobody sees, in the thoughts nobody hears. Every storm starts with a single unchallenged thought. One moment where you say, "I'll do it tomorrow." 1 hour where you let fear speak louder than purpose. One night where you trade effort for comfort, knowing deep down you just postponed your own destiny. Most people don't have a life problem. They have a thinking problem, a pattern problem, a mindset that slowly became a prison, without them noticing the walls closing in. This is where the battle truly begins, not in action, but in thought. You tell yourself you're tired. You tell yourself it's too much. You tell yourself you'll start when you feel ready. But readiness is a myth, a lie. The mind tells to keep you safe. Safe from growth. Safe from discomfort. Safe from becoming the stronger version of yourself. Someday, that deadly word, that quiet killer of potential, that soft whisper that steals years from people who deserve more, someday never comes. Not for the person who waits. Not for the person who negotiates with their weakness. Not for the person who keeps promising tomorrow. But their soul needed them to do today. Because discipline does not wait for convenience. Discipline comes at inconvenient hours, in moments where you'd rather rest, in seasons where you feel overwhelmed, in days where your spirit is bruised and your mind is tired. It arrives when life is already heavy and demands that you rise anyway. Discipline demands surrender, not to the world, not to pressure, but to the truth of who you are and what you are capable of becoming. It demands honesty, real honesty, the kind where you sit with yourself without excuses, without filters, without pretending you don't know what needs to change. It demands you look yourself in the mirror and stop lying about the things you know you must do. Let this sink in, because this honesty hurts. It cracks the ego. It shakes the comfort zone. It forces you to confront the parts of your life you've been avoiding. And that discomfort, that sting, that ache, is exactly where the transformation begins. This is the fight before the fix, the invisible war, the internal storm, the conflict nobody sees, but everyone feels. Let me show you how real this is. A story. A moment that could belong to anyone. A CEO, a soldier, a mother, a president. Because the mind does not care about your title. It only cares about your truth. A man sits alone in his car, engine off, parking lot empty. The sun has already dipped behind the buildings. He's held together all day, held the smile, held the responsibility, held the expectation of being strong. But now, sitting in the driver's seat, hands gripping the steering wheel, his chest tightens, his throat burns, his vision blurs, not from weakness, but from the weight of every unspoken battle he's been carrying silently. He whispers to himself, "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up." And that is the moment the fight begins. Not the fight with life, not the fight with circumstances, the fight with self, the fight to not collapse under the weight, the fight to not give up on his own potential, the fight to choose discipline, even when his spirit feels like shattered glass. He takes a slow breath, lifts his head, wipes his face with shaking hands, and he says two words that have rebuilt more lives than any motivation ever could. Not yet. Not yet means, I'm not done. I'm not defeated. I'm not giving this moment permission to end me. That is discipline. Not perfection, not emotionlessness, but the refusal to stay down when your heart kneels against its will. This is where the weak break, and the strong get born. Not born from glory, not born from applause, not born from external victory. The strong get born in hidden moments of unbearable honesty, in late-night decisions nobody praises, in silent internal wars nobody celebrates, in the quiet choice to rise when falling would feel easier. This is your moment. Right now, this is your fight before the fix. Every person who has ever risen, every leader you admire, every American who built something powerful, every soul who stepped into their greatness, passed through this internal fire. Pain did not break them. Fear did not silence them. Doubt did not own them. Because they understood the truth. Your mind can be your greatest enemy or your greatest warrior. And discipline is the sword it learns to carry. This act, the fight before the fix, is not here to punish you. It's here to prepare you, to shape you, to carve strength into your bones and clarity into your soul. You are not losing. You are being refined. You are not overwhelmed. You are awakening. You are not behind. You are becoming. This is the battle every great life begins with. And you. You are standing in the doorway of your own greatness. Let's go deeper. Here is the truth people avoid. Here is the truth that sits in the shadows of most lives. Here is the truth that many run from until life forces them to face it head-on. Your life is shaped more by your habits than by your hopes. That sentence alone rewrites destinies. It strips away illusions. It pulls the curtain back on the quiet decisions that form your character, your future, your entire existence. Hope feels good. Hope feels warm. Hope feels inspiring. But hope without action is a slow, quiet form of self-sabotage. Wishing changes nothing. Talking changes nothing. Dreaming changes nothing. Only disciplined action moves the needle. Only disciplined action turns a life around. Only disciplined action saves you from the version of yourself that never lived up to its potential. Let me take you to a moment. A real moment that plays out in thousands of American homes every single morning. A father wakes up before the sun. Alarm ringing at 4:45 a.m. He sits on the edge of the bed, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. His body stiff. His mind heavy. He's tired, not just physically, but tired in his bones, tired in his soul, tired from years of trying to be strong, trying to be steady, trying to be the rock his family can lean on. And for a brief moment, he wants to lie back down. He wants to say, "Not today." He wants to skip the gym, skip the hustle, skip the grind. Because nobody would blame him. Nobody would judge him. Nobody would even know. But he knows. And that knowing, that truth, is enough to get him standing. Because he understands something most people never realize. Every morning you choose your future. Not once a year, not on New Year's Day. Not after you feel motivated. Every single morning. You choose whether today becomes a step forward or another silent retreat. You choose whether you will be defined by emotion or anchored by principle. You choose whether you will move toward the life you want or drift deeper into the life you fear. That father ties his shoes, walks out the door, steps into the cold morning air, and every step he takes toward his discipline shapes the man his children will remember, shapes the story he will someday tell, shapes the strength he carries into the rest of his day. Because he understands something universal. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. Let me tell you another truth. One that stings. One that people resist. One that separates those who grow from those who slowly collapse under their own potential. Pain will visit you either way. Pain from discipline or pain from regret. You cannot escape it. You cannot avoid it. You cannot bypass it. But the pain of discipline is clean, sharp, purposeful. It transforms you. It builds you. It chisels you into someone powerful. The pain of regret is different. It's heavy. It sinks into your chest. It visits you when you're alone. It speaks to you when you're trying to sleep. It whispers, "You should have tried harder. You should have started sooner. You could have been more." Regret is heavier than any discipline you will ever carry. And some people know this too late. Let me take you to a second real moment. One that could break the heart of a president because it carries the weight of every American life that never fully bloomed. An elderly man sits in a nursing home, hands wrinkled, eyes soft with decades of memory. He looks out the window at the courtyard, kids visiting their grandparents, young families walking by, life moving in front of him, while he sits quietly in his chair. A young nurse, no older than 24, asks him gently, "Do you miss anything from your youth?" He pauses. His jaw shakes faintly. His breath trembles. And with a voice barely above a whisper, he says, "I don't miss the things I did. I miss the things I didn't do." That line will haunt any leader, any president, any human being with a soul. Because in that moment, you realize the truth most people avoid until it's too late. Your habits become your memories. Your discipline becomes your legacy. Your choices become the stories you leave behind. The things you avoid today become the regrets you carry tomorrow. But the things you confront today, with courage, with consistency, with discipline, become the pride your future self lives with. This is why Act 2 matters. This is why this truth cannot be ignored. Your life is not shaped by what you wish for. Your life is shaped by what you repeatedly do. Small daily discipline, invisible to the world, but undeniable in its power. This is the truth you don't want to hear, but desperately need. Because once you accept it, your life begins to bend toward strength, toward clarity, toward purpose. You are not stuck. You are simply unpracticed. You are not incapable. You are simply undisciplined. And that can change. Today, here, now. The question is not, can you rise? The question is, will you? Act 3 awaits. And this is where your life begins to turn. There is always a moment, a silent instant, a breath between who you were and who you are about to become. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't come with applause. It doesn't come with a sign from the sky. It arrives quietly, soft, barely noticeable, like a whisper in your chest that says, "Enough." Most people don't recognize that moment. They rush past it. They drown it out with noise. They suffocate it with distraction. But for the few who truly hear it, that moment becomes the hinge upon which an entire life turns. That moment is sacred. That moment is powerful. That moment is the birthplace of a different future. Because suddenly, you stop negotiating with your weakness. You stop arguing with your excuses. You stop telling stories that protect your limitations. You stop letting fear write your script. And for the first time in a long time, you rise. Let me take you to a real moment. A moment that happens in American homes, in crowded cities, in quiet suburbs, in small apartments, in big houses, in lives that look stable on the outside, but are trembling on the inside. A woman sits in her bedroom closet, not because she is hiding, but because it's the only quiet place she has left. Her kids are asleep. Her husband is working late. The laundry is still unfolded. The bills are still waiting. The dishes still in the sink. Her life is full, but her soul feels empty. She presses her forehead against her knees and whispers into the dark, "I'm tired of being strong for everyone except myself." And in that exact moment, right between breaking and breathing, something shifts. She lifts her head, she wipes her eyes, and for the first time in years, she admits a truth she has buried. "I deserve the same love I give." That admission becomes the spark, the turning point, the awakening. She stands up, slowly, steadily, but with a different kind of strength. A strength that does not come from carrying everything, but from choosing herself. This is the moment your life turns. Not when someone else saves you, not when conditions improve, not when the world gets easier. Your life turns when you finally meet yourself on the battlefield of your own mind and refuse to retreat. Let me give you another moment, one that could shake the heart of any leader, because it is raw, real, and undeniably human. A man sits alone in his truck, outside a job he hates. Engine running, hands trembling on the steering wheel. He feels like he's wasting his life away. He feels like time is slipping through his fingers. He feels like every dream he once had is rusting in the corners of his mind. He looks in the rearview mirror, and he doesn't recognize the eyes staring back. Eyes that used to hold fire, now holding fatigue. Eyes that used to hold ambition, now holding survival. He whispers to himself, in a voice that sounds broken, "I can't keep doing this." And then that sacred instant arrives. Subtle, quiet, a single tear slides down his cheek. Not from weakness, but from clarity, from realization, from the sudden truth that hits him like a revelation. He's not living, he's enduring, and something inside him wakes up. It doesn't roar, it doesn't scream, it simply says, "Enough." That word becomes the spark that changes everything, because in that moment, he makes a promise not to the world, not to his boss, not to society, not even to his family. He makes a promise to himself that he will no longer abandon his own life, that he will no longer settle for a version of himself that hides behind fear. Eyes that he will take the risk, make the move, start the journey. No matter how long it takes, no matter how many steps it requires, this is where transformation begins. This is where your story shifts. This is where you reclaim the steering wheel of your life, not when life gets easier, but when you get stronger. Strength is not found in the absence of pain, it is forged within it. Strength is not found in perfect moments, it is born in imperfect ones. Strength is not found when everything aligns. It emerges when nothing does, and you rise anyway. This is the moment your life turns. When you stop waiting for permission, when you stop expecting rescue, when you stop believing the lie that you are powerless. You are not powerless. You have simply been asleep. But now, you are waking up to your potential, to your responsibility, to your future. Your turning point doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be honest. One decision, one shift, one moment where your soul whispers, "No more." That whisper becomes a roar. That roar becomes a lifestyle. That lifestyle becomes a destiny. So breathe, stand, rise. Because Act 3 is your awakening. And your awakening is the doorway to the life waiting for you. Act 4 is where everything aligns, and it is calling your name. The discipline that fixes 94% of your problems. There comes a day in every life when emotions lose their power. Not because they disappear, not because you suddenly become invincible, but because you finally understand something most people live their entire lives without learning. Your feelings are not your leaders. Your feelings are signals. Your discipline is the commander. Your mind becomes powerful when you stop letting every emotion, every fear, every memory, every insecurity run across your thoughts like an untrained army. Because an untrained army destroys the very land it was meant to protect. And the land is you, your peace, your clarity, your future. This is where mastery begins. Not in the gym, not in the office, not in the applause. Mastery begins in that small, quiet decision inside your mind that says, "I will no longer surrender my life to my moods." It's a decision the world never sees. But heaven sees it, and your future feels it. Let me take you to a real moment. Picture a woman mid-40s sitting in her car in a parking lot with her hands still on the steering wheel, long after the engine has stopped. The day has drained her. Her phone is buzzing with texts she doesn't have the strength to answer. Her responsibilities have piled so high that even breathing feels like weightlifting. Stress sits on her chest like a stone, and she whispers, "I can't keep living like this." But then something happens. Soft, subtle, sacred. She says it again, but this time with a different tone. "I can't keep living like this." Not as a confession, but as a declaration, a turning, a shift, a promise to herself that life will feel different from this moment forward. Because here is the truth she finally understood. Most of her stress wasn't from life being cruel. Most of her stress came from living without order, without boundaries, without discipline, without direction. She wasn't broken. She was simply untrained, and untrained minds always feel like suffering. Listen closely now, because this is where your story and hers become the same. Most of your stress disappears, when you stop arguing with reality, when you stop trying to escape the truth of what must be done, when you stop wrestling with tasks you know you must complete. You don't suffer because life is impossible. You suffer because you keep fighting the life you are meant to stand up and master. Most of your confusion dissolves when you commit to one path with your whole soul. You're not confused because you lack purpose. You're confused because you're trying to carry 5 purposes, 4 backup plans, 3 versions of yourself, and a future that hasn't been chosen yet. The mind finds peace the moment it chooses a direction, not a perfect one, a chosen one. Most of your sadness lifts when you keep your promises to yourself. People think sadness comes from failure or heartbreak, but some of the deepest sadness comes from being a witness to your own inconsistency. When you say you'll start, and you don't. When you say you'll change, and you don't. When you say you'll rise, and you don't. You break your own heart long before anyone else does. But the day you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, something miraculous happens. You start trusting your own soul again. And trust is what heals you. Most of your fear fades when you take action before your doubts can stop you. Fear thrives in hesitation. It grows in delay. It becomes a monster in the pauses between your courage and your next step. But the moment you act, the second you move, the fear loses its throne. Because you realize something powerful. Fear cannot chase someone who is already in motion. This is why discipline fixes 94% of your problems. Not because discipline makes life easy, but because discipline removes the self-inflicted suffering that has been weighing you down for years. Once your mind is mastered, everything else bows. Everything else aligns. Everything else begins to make sense. The chaos clears. The fog lifts. The noise inside you quiets. And suddenly, you can breathe. You can think. You can act. You can become. This is the life your spirit has been calling you into. A life where you are not tossed around by moods or memories or fears. A life where you finally carry yourself with the strength your soul always remembered. A life where you return to the fire inside you. Not the fire that burns you, the fire that builds you. You were not born to feel lost. You were not born to feel overwhelmed. You were born to rise. And rising requires discipline, not punishment, not perfection. Discipline, the love language of your future self. And now you return to it. Return to your power. Return to your focus. Return to the version of you that life tried to bury. Because the truth is simple. You were never weak. You were never incapable. You were simply undisciplined. And discipline is a skill, not a gift. Today, you reclaim it. Today, you rise with it. The moment you master your thoughts, your entire life kneels before your purpose.